You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org. This episode of Pizza Quest is brought to you by Central Milling, hand-selected grain, expertly milled for passionate bakers. Central Milling is the farmer, the miller, and the baker working together to preserve American farmland for tomorrow while providing the highest quality flour and grains for the bakers of today. Dating back over 150 years, Central Milling is built on generations of knowledge, and they know that premium flour starts at the source. Employee-owned, Central Milling works directly with their farmers to sustainably grow grains that have exceptional flavor, nutrient content, color, and baking performance, which results in one of the largest selections of premium specialty flour and grains in the country. Hand-selected for the highest baking qualities, milled, cracked, or blended slowly to minimize heat generation, then bake-tested for performance. Learn more about Central Milling and their products at centralmilling.com. Welcome to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhardt. I'm coming to you once again, as we have for the last number of episodes, from the Northeast Pizza and Pasta and Artisan Baking Expo in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I'm sitting here today with Karen Bornarth, who is the Executive Director of the Bread Bakers Guild of America, an organization that I have a long history with and a passion for. And I've seen a number of executive directors come and go. But I've known Karen almost as long as I've known the Guild, because we met years ago when you were at Amy's Kitchen.
Yes,
Amy's Breads,
a long time
Amy's
ago.
Breads in New York City.
Yeah.
So you've had a number of what would you call it? The iterations of your career, arcs in your career. Somewhere in the middle of that, weren't you at the Hot Kitchen?
I was most recently at Hot Bread Kitchen, a workforce development agency in New York City that also ran a social enterprise bakery. Where else? I was with Le Pain Quotidien for a period of time.
That's
I
right.
taught at the French Culinary, but I got my start at Amy's Bread on the night shift. I did the night shift for
That's right.
6 years
and
of
you
my
wrote,
life.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you wrote a great essay about
I
working
wrote
the
a-
night
I
shift
wrote a couple
that ran in
essays
the Bread Bakers Guild.
That actually, it's funny.
Newsletter.
I wrote those essays. I wrote specifically about my team members there, who I all loved. But it didn't occur to me that I should give them the heads up that I was writing about them. And then it got published.
You
and
were the Anthony Bourdain of the bread world.
I remember coming in one night to a lot of very cold stares. And I was like, oh, no.
You pantsed them in front of the world. The small world of the
But
Bread
it
Bakers
was
community.
all loving stuff. We had worked very hard, and we had a lot of fun.
Well, that
We
was
had a
good.
lot of fun.
That I didn't realize that until I saw that I said, she's not just a baker, she's a writer baker. That's a whole different breed.
I feel like there are a lot of us, though, writer bakers.
I hope so.
I find that bread bakers were a little more introspective, maybe, and philosophical, and we like to put this stuff on paper, not just into dough. Don't you think so? I mean, that's
think
true
so.
of you.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
we find that bakers. I used to say I got in trouble for saying this. I said I felt like bakers are kind of a spiritual lot, and somebody wrote a response to that saying, I'm not religious at all. I'm not. I don't feel like you have to believe in God to be a great bread baker. My religion is making great bread. And I wrote back and I said, well, that's not what I meant. I just think making great bread is spiritual. To be honest.
I think we're very much down in the earth, right?
Yeah.
We are very rooted to the earth.
That's why bread baking was so important to me, because I was living up in my head for a long time with lots of notions and ideas and thoughts, but nothing to ground them in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I discovered bread baking, suddenly I found the way to ground those ideas in the real present world.
Yeah, and connect your hands to your mind
my
and
mind.
to your heart.
And
right?
it changed
All
me.
of
It changed me a
Yeah.
lot. And I think and I found lots of kindred spirits in the bread world before I found this larger community of kindred spirits in the pizza world.
In the pizza
And
world,
really those two worlds are coming together, in a very interesting way.
Because I don't know where you stand, and maybe this is controversial, but I do think pizza is bread. Right.
That's I don't think you and I don't have a
We don't
controversy
have a
about
controversy
that.
about
And to be honest with you, I think the majority of people in the pizza community will agree with the premise that pizza is bread with something on it.
Yeah.
And that it starts with the bread. And most people, I think, not everybody, but most people agree that the difference between good pizza and great pizza is about the crust, not about the
It's
toppings.
about the dough. Yeah, and I would imagine a lot of these pizza makers here are kind of becoming more proficient bread makers at the same time as they become more interested in the dough.
That has been one of the real crossover benefits as these two conferences have come together, but not, and it predated that. But what happened was is that the pizza community, which had an intuitive notion of long fermentation to get a better pizza dough, but not understanding the science or the reasons why, saw this emerging artisan bread movement that I think was, really in this country, the charge for that was led by the Bread Bakers Guild of America in bringing the knowledge to American bakers and fanning the flame. And suddenly people in the pizza world were saying, wow, I'm seeing better bread than ever. What can I apply some of that to my pizza doughs? And the hunger was always in this very competitive world of pizza is to see how I can keep making it better. Yeah. So most of what the Guild pioneered here has been adopted. It started, I would say, about 15 years ago in the pizza community, and very important players in the pizza world, like Tony Gemignani, who's a poster boy for a lot in the pizza world, and others started to absorb that knowledge.
Yeah, and we're starting to, we want to cross over more into pizza at the Guild and connect more with pizza makers. We did a great class this year with Nicole Bean, who's an amazing competitor. Do you know Nicole?
We had Nicole on the show.
Oh, nice.
We interviewed her at the Pizza Expo in Vegas.
Great. Yeah, and she did a pizza for the bakery case class, because that's kind of a whole other world of pizza, right? Not just the made-to-order pizza, but what can sit in the case.
And there's a lot of bakeries that are bringing pizza into their mix, or the other thing I noticed, in a lot of small artisan bakeries might have a pizza day, and they'll do classic wood-fired pizza or whatever. But and it's a great pizza. And the reason they're starting out with a great dough, great crust, and then all they needed was some decent toppings in there. They have a winner. Yeah. And then they went, I'm making more money on pizza day than I am on my bread days.
Exactly.
And so there is total fit.
Total.
And it's only a matter of time before, it's almost going to be expected that if you have a bakery, you better have some form of pizza as well.
When I was teaching at the French Culinary, we did an Italian unit in the professional class, and we ended it, of course, with Pizza Day. Yes. And we monkeyed around with pizza formulas forever, pizza dough formulas, and then we discovered that the dough that we made for our baguette made the best pizza.
There's not much difference between a great baguette dough and a great pizza dough.
We didn't need to invent anything.
And it already included all of the positives that the pizza guys are knowing about how longer fermentation creates a better product, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly.
Exactly. So the bread world and the pizza worlds have discovered each other as really essentially just a larger version of one community, I think. Yeah. And I refer to it often as a tribe. That when you come to an expo like this, you realize you're part of a tribe, whether it's the bread tribe or the pizza tribe, and in many cases it's a little bit of both. But there's a kindred spirit. Yeah. Afoot.
We're the dough tribe. That doesn't sound
the
good.
The dough tribe.
To think about it.
You got to come up with something that's either alliterative or, like I call it the fire freaks or the breadheads or the, we have to come up with clever names for it just to put it in a category.
Exactly.
But the main thing is, and the key word for me is the idea of a kindred spirit, that there's something, about being, whether it's pizza, bread, whatever, anything that to do, even fermentation in general, that people that partake of that have something in common that bonds them together.
I think so. There's the science, but there's also kind of this mystic quality to it.
Yes.
And I think for many of us, we're attracted to both, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then once you're connected to a community, then already some of your most important basic needs are being met. You're checking those off the mark. I've got my community, I've got my tribe. Yep. And I think that's why people keep coming back to these events. Yeah. Because it's kind of like reunion time.
Yeah. That's why people keep coming back to the Guild. It's the community.
So let's talk about the Guild, because that is an early driving force in what the rest of this country and the world, I think, are benefiting from now. What is it, 30
It is 30
years.
It is 30 years this year.
And I remember when the Guild first started in the early 90s.
Yep.
And most American bakers who were young bakers, I was a young baker at the time, not anymore, but when we were into it, we didn't know what we were doing. Most of us, if you worked in a bakery, you knew how to follow recipes, but you didn't know, what it was that made bread work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the guild came along and taught us.
I mean, the guild educated me. I joined 1999, I think, and I had some education already
Second
from
round.
school. Yeah, second round, second generation. But so much that I learned about baking, about being a teacher, about being a business, I learned through the guild. And one important thing I learned through the guild was that I never wanted to be a bakery owner.
That's
and I am thankful
you worked
for that
a very
lesson.
Good bakery owner.
I worked for a lot of great bakery owners, but I saw and I met a lot of great bakery owners from the guild, but I talked with them and I saw what their experience was. I said, that's not the path for me. And I think that's
special
hugely
breed. To own
important.
a business is a whole, it's a different
It's a whole
place.
other thing. Yeah. But I think that's one thing that the guild does so well and can do is kind of illuminate these different paths, like the way a show like this can do that.
Yes. Well, how does the guild illuminate it for its members?
Yeah, so we do it through education. Everything we do has education at its heart. And, what's been interesting about the Guild over the last few years is we've really transitioned to the virtual environment. We still do in-person activities, but most of the people we're meeting through Zoom. And we've really started to expand our programming beyond baking techniques and into the business of baking. Because this is when I first started in this role about a year and a half ago, I asked members to have conversations with me. And I said, please, let's talk. And I talked to probably 100 members in my first 3 months on the job. And what I heard from them was, listen, I can make a great baguette. I can make a great ciabatta, but I don't know how to, create a P&L or calculate my COGS. And I also don't know how to attract and retain my staff. So this has really been our focus, and this will be our focus for the next few years, is really the workforce, the current workforce, and how can we provide them with opportunities to grow and connect to this incredible community and really commit to the industry by showing them all the different possibilities.
And some of the ways that you do that, one of the effective tools I think that you have, and when I trying to convince somebody to join the guild, it's worth it. It doesn't cost very much to join the guild, and what you're going to get is going to change your life. And one of the tools that you give them is your newsletters. It used to be quarterly. Now it looks like it may be changing to twice a year.
So we do the magazine, Breadlines, and we're doing 2 big double issues this year. And that's actually a printed magazine, but we want to move that so it's accessible digitally as well.
And it's already digitally available, isn't it?
But it's kind of buried. We want to put it up on Substack, make it really easy for people to interact and find it.
But what's contained in those I call them newsletters, but the what do you call it?
The magazine.
The magazine.
Yeah.
It's priceless knowledge.
Yeah.
And it covers. There's always at least one column on the business side, some on the craft, on fermentation, on flour, on formulas.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much knowledge in each issue. You could build a bakery on one issue alone.
You could.
And if you join now, you could actually still have access to all the old issues too.
You can have access to all the old issues, through our database. You can also have access to hundreds and hundreds of formulas. So all what we've been doing for 30 years is amazing hands-on classes with some of the best bakers in the country, and they all provide formulas. And those formulas are tested and proven, and they make sense
and
for
one
bakeries.
thing, if you remember, one thing you will learn is how to read a formula.
Yeah,
because there's a format for those formulas that when you first look at it, you go, I don't understand how to make sense of it. But once you do, then it's hard to go back because you realize, oh my God, this is like a perfect template for a formula.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, just having a handle on baker's math opens up a world of possibility for a baker. I mean, converting formulas to different amounts is one thing, but just understanding the relationship between the different ingredients and the ratios is kind
How
of
many times have you heard a baker say, when I learned about baker's math, it changed my life?
Yeah.
It is. It's a life-changing, it's a piece of knowledge.
Yeah. It was the first time in my life that I actually liked math.
Yeah, right.
When I learned about baker's math,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, now I actually know what I'm going to do with
Same
this.
thing for me. It made math fun for the first time.
Yeah.
But my students, would really have emotional reactions to having to learn it because of their own experiences with math.
Yeah.
So I can't do math again, but it's not that hard it's not rocket science. You can learn baker's math if you're willing to
get through and maybe have a couple cries,
Yeah.
when your emotions go, I can't do this, because I did that when just I trying to learn how to do a computer. I had that same experience.
Sure.
But once they learn it, then they say the same thing. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't believe how how this works.
Yeah, but just being able to have that information at your fingertips. So if you need to make a correction on the fly, you added too much flour to the mixer, to know that you need to add an additional amount of salt. It's just so freeing.
And for
I
people
think.
who are listening who don't know what we're talking about, basically it comes down to the fact that you're learning the ratios of the ingredients, the proper ratio of ingredients to each other to create the loaf that you're envisioning in your mind.
Yeah. So for whatever 100 parts of flour, it's 70 parts of water, 2 parts of salt, and so on.
And so bakers, when they get together, they can just have a conversation all in numbers.
In numbers.
What are you doing these days? I'm doing 78%.
Well, that is always the thing. It's always about hydration, right? But I feel like the hydration wars are slowing down a little bit. I think people are coming more back down to earth with their hydrations. I don't know if you're seeing it, but for a long time it was.
It's just the opposite in pizza.
Oh, really?
In the bread world, you have to try everything before you know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
In the pizza world, same thing. The pizza makers are pushing their hydration in their pizza doughs until they realize, oh my, I've gone too far. We were talking to in another episode about the Roman style of pizza, which starts at 80%, but can often go up to 90%.
Wow.
And you see that sometimes in a ciabatta bread or something. But in the pizza world, typically 68%, 70% is about it.
Yeah.
So, but listen, you have to try everything to know what's going to work for you in the style you're trying to do, and what kind of oven you have and everything else.
But so there's a little bakery in my town, and I asked the guy, could I come work with you a little bit, just spend some time on the bench, because I miss it. I really miss it.
Yeah.
He says, sure. And I go in, and he's got these like soupy doughs, and he makes amazing bread.
Wow.
But I couldn't handle it, and I have pretty good hand skills, but it was just too much for me. So I think you have to be careful that you don't create a dough that's so difficult to handle that even somebody with a lot of bench experience comes in and
unless you want to have a very highly trained, specialized employee who will then leave you crying and open a bakery across the street and copy you.
Yeah.
But so did you watch him work with that dough? What did he do to make it work?
He really used very little flour. I feel like he actually didn't have any flour on the bench. He turned the dough, and no water, but he was very good with his scraper.
Wow.
So he was dividing, I was trying to shape, but he was using the scraper really effectively to keep it from sticking to the table. He wasn't using water.
No oil even?
No oil, no water, no flour.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's it. That would make a great video.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
So, and the bread was great.
He makes good bread. He makes very good bread. Although I will say the one drawback to those high hydration breads is in the summer when the weather is humid, you can't cut into that bread on day one. This is like a pain levain style bread, and you know how you get that real stickiness on like a high hydration dough. And
wait, hold on for 1 second. We're doing this, but I'll sign that one for you if you want. But you can look at it. I'm sorry, we have people walking by our table, for those who are listening, and they're seeing my book, and they want to know if they can buy one in the middle of our conversation, which is fine with me, except that I want to keep talking to you.
Anyhow, you get that stickiness of crumb because the bread has to continue to set after it cools. So sometimes in the summer, I'd get a loaf of bread from him, and it's too sticky to cut on the first day. Yeah. So there are some drawbacks to that.
Itself, yeah. So do you find that dough can on the second day become less gummy and
one of the things I love to make and eat are high percentage rye breads.
Exactly. That's one of the
and that's definitely you
gummy
need
breads,
2 or 3 days of letting that kind of cure and set out of the ovens, and you lose that stickiness.
Lionel Polan told me, and this was a long time ago, but he was still alive then, and he died a long time ago, that he always felt his breads were better on the second or third day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was convinced that no, it's never better than when it first comes out of the oven. But he's been around his bread a lot longer than me, and I think for the same reason, it kind of settles.
Yeah, like a miche, a high percentage rye bread, a baguette for sure, first day, right?
Yeah.
A pain levain, I think first day. But I think it depends on the bread.
That's interesting. Well,
but I think most people, they buy bread, your customers, they take it home, they think fresh bread, I want to eat this right now.
Yeah.
So they don't want to necessarily wait the 2 or 3 days for it to to set.
But if you buy a Vollkornbrot or something,
Yeah.
you wait till the third day. You know?
Well, you're going to have it around for a month anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. So this is what like two bread geeks do, is they talk about stuff like this. And for those of you who are listening who are not bread geeks, you're probably wondering, what the hell are they talking about? But some of you know what we're talking about.
yeah. Well, if you
Those
ever
are the
got a loaf
kindred
of bread
spirits.
that's a little sticky, you know why.
So the guild, again, going back to what the guild does for its members. So there's this educational tool, the magazine. But what else? You got other things going?
It's classes. I mean, right now, for instance, at the show, we have classes going on at our booth. One of our board members, Edna Coaches, is there right now teaching a little class on social media, and she's going to follow that up with a class on newsletters. So we're really connecting to our members, not just through baking techniques, but also through business acumen. So we're trying to really provide all of the skills necessary to have a strong business or to grow a career. And I think most critically, the thing that the Guild has done so well through the years is connect people to one another and form community.
Yes.
So I taught a class this morning on business operations and job quality, and there was a lot of discussion in that class and sharing out.
Did you get a good turnout?
I had a great turnout
Excellent.
and lots of sharing from bakery owners. And then when the class ended, I walked out of the room, and there's still 10 people in the room, and they're chatting, and they're
That's good sign. Yeah.
exchanging phone numbers, and that
And
is.
were all these people who are not members of the guild?
So they all are now. They all came down to the booth to join.
Because
But
they saw the benefit right away.
They saw the benefit, and now they're connected to one another, right? So they're an incredible resource for each other, and that's really what the Guild is about.
Isn't that the classic
peer,
purpose of the guild in a sense?
Exactly. It's that peer-to-peer connection, that peer-to-peer consulting that can happen both formally and informally. And that's what we're about, and that's what we want to do more of. And in particular, as I said, we want to do that with young people in the industry. Right?
Young people,
Get them out of their bakeries, get them to events, get them to shows, even just get them into a Zoom class so they can interact with other people in the industry, see what's going on,
Is there a
and
new
get
wave
excited.
of young people coming into the baking industry?
For sure. I mean, so many of the bakeries that I see popping up around the country they're young. These are young people who are starting bakeries. Whether they're cottage bakers or brick and mortars, they're doing super interesting, exciting stuff. They tend to be very specialized and very neighborhood and community focused, and they're young people.
Is the guild also doing work with the small mills, the local mills, and farmers and things like that?
Yeah, we have an event actually on November 5th in Columbus, Ohio. At the Columbus State Community College, we're holding an event on the local grain economy in Ohio.
Wow.
And we're bringing together farmers, millers, and bakers to talk about the regenerative farming that's happening in Ohio, all the spelt that's being grown there.
Spelt's happening. It's back. Spelt never went away, but it's back.
And Ohio's the biggest grower. So
Is that right?
Yeah. So we're doing a lot more programming
we did
on
something
that.
like that in North Carolina that I think you attended, right? At the
I think
National
so.
Bread Festival.
Yeah.
Same thing. It was kind of helmed by the miller portion of it, which was Carolina Ground Mills,
Yep.
and then a lot of the farmers who were growing specifically for her, and then bakers who were learning how to work with those unique grains.
Yeah. This is one of the most exciting things I think that's happening in our industry is the attention that bakers are paying these days to their primary ingredient, right? I don't know about you, but for me, for a long time, I just opened big 50-pound bags of flour and didn't think a whole lot about what was in there or where it came from or what it really meant.
Talk about taking something for granted.
Yeah. And then one of the most interesting experiences I had was with the Guild. This might have been 2006, 2007. The Guild organized a trip. A group of bakers got on a bus at one end of Kansas, and we drove clear across the state.
Trip. Yeah, I didn't go on it, but I remember
it was
about
amazing.
Yeah.
We visited farmers and millers and cereal chemists and bakers, and we were all nearly in Colorado by the time we finished.
I
and
wish
it was
that I could have been there with you.
It was such an eye-opening experience, and it really got to me to start thinking about, oh, wait a minute, this flour, this critical ingredient. And I think what was interesting for the farmers farmers that we visited, they were mostly commodity grain farmers. They said, well, it's nice for us to realize that what we're selling is food, because they think about it as commodity.
Yeah.
But connecting with bakers, connecting with people who care
Yeah,
about...
they needed to be connected as much as we need to connect to them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I think this idea of connection is such a fundamental human need, and it gives us purpose. And probably one of the greatest causes of the societal problems we have is the disconnection that exists. So, in its own way, the guilds in general, but the Bread Bakers Guild in particular, is a way to. It's kind of an antidote to a larger problem.
That's our intention. I mean, it's been tough over the last few years with the pandemic to bring people together, but we have discovered, the virtual format is a great place to do that. Social media is a great place to connect with people.
That's the upside of it all.
Yeah.
Are members of the guild, do they have to be professionals?
They don't. They don't have to be professionals.
They can be bread enthusiasts.
Anybody who likes to eat bread, make bread, think about bread. I don't any of it.
So home bakers could join the guild.
Yes, and we do have home bakers in our membership. And what's interesting is many of them actually become professionals.
That's right. Well, that's true. We always say, watch out now, you're going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But you have to start somewhere.
You do.
I started as a home baker. Who didn't? Unless you were born into it.
No, I started at home also.
But I think that's amazing how large that community is, the home baking community.
Yeah.
I mean, you sat on a panel when I did the bread symposium a couple of years ago, which we also did virtually on Zoom.
Yep.
And you were on a panel, I think, that addressed the issues of. Was it women in baking? Was that your panel?
No, I was on the panel where we talked about education and training.
Yeah. So but you could have been as easily on the women panel, because we had another panel that where we discussed the growing number of women that are getting into the baking business.
Yeah,
and it's true in the pizza world as well. More and more women. There's a group of women champion, Nicole Bean being one of them, who you mentioned earlier, who was part of the Women in Pizza sub society. Basically the champions of women. And it's not because they need to be champions; it's because it's happening already.
It's happening,
and they need to be connected to each other
too. Absolutely. And so much happens through those connections and through partnership. We're working with Women in Pizza, and we want to do more programming with them and with Nicole. She's going to come to Camp Bread. We're having Camp Bread next March.
So let's talk about Camp Bread. Because Camp Bread is every 2 or 3 years the guild puts on a Woodstock-like event, which is sometimes called Wheatstock.
Yes.
And you talk about going to a place where you feel like you're at fantasy camp for breadheads. That's the event.
That is the event.
And you have to be a guild member to go.
Well, yes. If we have any ticket openings left, we'll sell them to non-members. But chances are there's not going to be any tickets left.
Usually there's a waiting list to get in.
Yeah. So March 5th through 7th, 2024,
in Providence, Rhode Island, at Johnson & Wales University, where I teach.
Yeah.
And so we've been hosting it the last couple of times. It wasn't always there. It's been in other places, but.
The first one was San Francisco Baking Institute, 2005. I went to that one. And then it was in Chicago a couple times, right?
Kendall College hosted it. And then Kendall's, I think, no longer there. And Johnson Wales took it on a couple years back.
Yeah, at least a couple.
We have a nice baking facility there.
Yes, it's amazing. And we're going to have so
if you want to spend, 3 days of...
3 days of it's an extravaganza. I can't think of another word of education. It is a camp,
and it's got workshops, hands-on workshops, meals and fellowship meals and great pizza usually. And some of the best bread teachers in the world.
The best, and fun. It's camp. It's not a conference. It's not a trade show.
Not a competition.
It's not a competition. So we'll have classes on lamination, on sourdough. We'll have classes on milling. Andrew Hain from New American Stone Mill is gonna bring a mill on site.
Wow.
Yeah. So many good things happening. Lots of classes on business.
I hope he leaves it there. That campus needs its own mill. They have to have a mill there.
From your mouth to Andrew's ears.
Right. Well, of course, who's going to pay for it? Probably not Johnson & Wales.
I don't know.
I'll work on them. But that's exciting. So and so for people who are listening who either want to join the guild and go, or are guild members and would like to know, when will the announcements go out and the applications be available?
We're going to open up ticket sales in the second half of October. So
by the time you hear this, then We're recording this on October 1st, but it probably won't run till for a number of weeks. So it'll be out by the time you hear this show.
It'll be out, and you can learn more about us by visiting us at bbga.org.
bbga.org.
Yeah, send us an email, info@bbga.org.
Remember to use org, because if you go .com, you get to a whole different organization.
I even wonder. I've never even looked at that.
I know that one time I was in an organization where it was IACP.org, which was International Association of Culinary Professionals. Yeah. But if you put .com, you ended up at the International Association of Police Commissioners or something like that.
That's not the right place to be.
Law enforcement agency. So you never know where you're going to end up. But remember the .org.
The .org,
it is a nonprofit.
We are a nonprofit. Yeah. We are a nonprofit. Yeah. And join, and we have lots of great free events and classes for members. We have discounts on hands-on classes for members. We have the magazine, as you mentioned. And we just have a growing, active community who are committed to good bread and baked goods and to the health of our businesses and our workers and the future of bread.
So you have workshops that you put on around the country.
We do. We have different partners. We partner with King Arthur Flour. We partner with Central Milling. We partner with different schools around the country to hold in-person classes and events.
We've hosted some at my campus and the Providence campus.
We definitely do a lot with Johnson & Wales.
So there's that's another benefit is as a member you can go to these events.
Yeah.
And I'm stressing the thing about as a member because I think anybody who's seriously into bread or pizza dough or pizza should be a member of the guild.
Yeah,
there's no downside.
No, there's no downside, or really just bakery, honestly. You know, we have very few members who only make bread, right? Most of our bakery members have a much fuller line.
That's true, yeah.
You know, because there's not a lot of, not even bread alone sells bread alone, right?
That's true, yeah, bread alone, yeah. Oxymoron, yeah.
So we're here to support all different types of bakeries.
And a lot of the educational material is about the pastry side as well.
We have a lot of pastry, we have a lot of croissant viennoiserie information, but our members, they make everything, right? They make everything.
Right.
So,
right. And so, again, I just feel like a resource like that, you know, you should not be in the game. In fact, it's usually like almost like the shibboleth, you know, of when I talk to bakers and they go, yeah, I've opened my little bakery. And I say, well, are you a member of the guild? And they go, the guild?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I said, no one will take you seriously.
Well, I will make a plug, though, too, as the Guild for an incredible source of professional development for your team, right? So if you're an owner or a manager and you're looking for easy ways to provide education to your team, look to the Guild. You know, our virtual classes, you can sign up, get a link and share it out with your team members. If you can schedule an hour break in production for someone to sit down and watch a class, that's an incredible opportunity. And professional development is really important to retaining people.
Yes.
So I would think about it not just for the owners, but really for the folks working on the bench.
When you work so hard to find a good employee, you do not want to lose them over something silly.
Yes. And, you know, generally speaking, people want to learn. Yeah. They want to learn new things. They want to do more.
And be challenged.
Yeah.
Well, the Guild has come a long way since I was there as a founding member, and I think it was 1992 or 93.
1993.
And we watched as the American teams started to form and compete against the Europeans. You know, one of our founding members, Craig Ponsford, was the first to win a gold medal at the World Champions, the Coupe du Monde, the World Cup of Bread. Yep. And then a couple of years later, the American team won, and that took the world by surprise. It was kind of like when the American wines beat the French wines. Suddenly the American breads are beating the French breads, and the Frenchmen are wanting to commit suicide over it. You know, it's like what a dishonor. You know, but it raised everybody's game.
It does,
and it certainly keeps raising our game.
Yeah.
And every time we put a team out, they don't always win, but it raises the training level. The knowledge base of the American bread community, and it filters back down to all the members because they get to see the formula packets and everything. So it's been an exciting ride. I've enjoyed watching that happen and seeing this parallel track happen in the pizza world, and I think in all of the various artisan crafts, whether it's cheese or winemaking, beer making, there's similar parallel things. But the Bread Bakers Guild is really a gold standard. And so congratulations to you and the Guild for all its growth. And, look forward to seeing the outcomes. remember, are we going to call it this the Camp Red again? Is it going?
It's going to be
back,
Camp Red. We're going back to Camp Red.
Wheatstock had its run.
No. I am very fond of that name because that was one of my early experiences
Camp
with
Red,
the Guild. Was
yeah.
the first Camp Red, and camp to me really captures the spirit of the event. It's about learning and camaraderie and fun, and that's camp, right? That's summer camp.
That is camp,
Yeah.
and it really is like going to camp.
Yeah.
So those of you who can make it, or if you're lucky enough to get a ticket, if you want to go, not everybody's going to get one. There's going to be a waiting list, I guarantee it. Look into it as soon as you can, and if you're not a member of the Guild yet, find out how to get on the website and consider joining. The cost of entry is minimal.
It's minimal. And if anyone has any financial barriers to participation in the Guild, let us know, because we do not want that to stand in anyone's way of joining or taking a class. We have scholarship funds available. We can offer discounts on membership. So we really want folks to participate, no matter where you're coming from or what you're
Karen, it looks
able
like
to
me
pay.
like you're kind of having fun being there. It's a difficult job what you're doing.
It's a difficult job.
You're riding herd over a lot of independent thinking people.
Yeah.
And issues come up all the time that have to be resolved. But so did you have to, when you signed on as executive, did you have to give a time commitment, like I'll do it for the next 4 years?
No.
It's because we hate to get a new director and then a year later they go, oh my God, this was harder than I thought.
Yeah, coming to the Guild in this role feels like coming home, and it's funny. I saw the job posting, and I felt like they had taken my resume and made it into a job description.
You were born for this job.
It really kind of felt that way. I mean, I've spent a career now really thinking about small businesses and their workforce and how we can support them. And that, to me, is what the Guild is all about. And ensuring that these bakeries that we know and love are going to be around, for another 10 years. And that the new bakeries are going to be able to do it, too. Because what is life without all these wonderful baked goods? It's just not worthwhile. So it's a good fit for me, and
good.
Yeah, it's an industry.
Karen
I know.
Bornarth, thank you so much for being with us today on Pizza Quest, but also for your work, and for continuing the advancement of great bread, not only in America but really, the effect of the Guild is global.
Yes. And thank you, Peter, for having me, and thank you for your commitment to the Guild. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure, and I will see you around for sure.
Right, good.
And
Thanks.
thank all of you for listening to Pizza Quest today and joining us. And join us again next week for another episode of Pizza Quest with Peter Reinert. I'm, for a while, going to be doing episodes from this expo, but we also do some, that are on Zoom, and we'll be interspersing some of the ones that I do from my home base, on Zoom, with the ones that are audio only through the Heritage Radio Network here at the Pizza Expo.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Have fun. I'm going to go eat some pizza.
Bye. Yeah, get some pizza. Enjoy the show. And I'll see you at your table later on at the Guild Pit table.
Thank you.
Bye, Karen.
Pizza Quest is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.